pulled this out of the pressure pot this afternoon. It sat in the pressure pot for all evening, so probably got at least 12 hours in the pressure pot, so plenty of time for the epoxy to cure. So here's the big reveal, I guess. You see that I had a little bit of a leak here. Epoxy drained out just a touch, but no big deal. It had a bag in the bottom. So let's take this off and see how it did. I putting the epoxy in and then putting the dye in, so I was kind of flustered and trying to get that done in time. Well, that looks really good. So I'm going to give this to my father. He's going to put that on the mill and not the mill, the lathe, and clean that up. I do have a little bit of a gap right in there where the epoxy didn't fill in. So I might make up a small batch and fill up that crack before I give it to him. Anyways, that's looking pretty good. Let's hook this up real quick and see how the LEDs look through the white dye epoxy. I'm a little concerned that I put too much dye in. This runs off of 5 volts. And it should just go into a demo mode. Oh wow, that looks pretty good. Possible that I could maybe use a little, maybe make that a little more opaque, and I would have got a little bit more diffusion between the LEDs. But yeah, pretty pleased with that for first try. Well, there you have it. Forgot I was going to point this out. So I did a couple of different tests with the epoxy. This is clear epoxy. This is a little bit of the white dye added, and this is just curing. And it looks okay. It's got a whole bunch of little teeny bubbles in it. These two windows, after these cured, I did this again, and I put this in a vacuum chamber. And I took the vacuum as high as I could, and it has less bubbles but bigger bubbles. These two are here, again did in the vacuum chamber, and I just put a slight vacuum in it, and again kind of some different results. These two right here, I put in a pressure pot, and it's like glass. So my earlier tests with the vacuum chamber, not going to be doing that again. Pressure pot's it. I'll show this underneath the microscope, and you'll be able to see better. Here's the comparison of the epoxy, just with a normal cure, a vacuum cure, and a pressure cure. So this is about a 1 inch by 1 inch square, and it's maybe 3 millimeters thick of epoxy. Whole bunch of little teeny bubbles, and that's just sitting on the desk curing. This is in my vacuum chamber curing, and it's much more clear, but with a bunch of bigger bubbles. This is at my maximum vacuum. This is in the pressure pot, and this is at about 35 psi. Those imperfections you're seeing there are dust and junk that's I wasn't too careful about. It's pretty much crystal clear. And this isn't going to work out too swell because it had a little bit of white dye mixed in with this. This is in the vacuum chamber again, and this is pulling just a slight vacuum. So more vacuum would help, but that's the maximum vacuum I can pull. Clearly the pressure pot wins. So here we are, we're making progress on this project. My father just gave this to me today. He finished turning the shape, and it ended up looking out pretty good. There's some real pretty figure in the wood right here. It might be hard to see. And the epoxy fill in this gap looks pretty darn good. So my plan is to put some more LEDs down in here, and thought I'd just power this up real quick, show you what it looks like before I'm going to put an epoxy coating on the whole unit, and probably do that tonight. So I mentioned this before, but the controller and the LED strings are powered by 5 volts. So I'm going to hook this up to my bench supply. Turn this on. This is just to a default setting, and it's probably too bright. But on the brightest setting, with these LEDs going in this band, we're drawing about 0.4 amps at 5 watts. So, I'm sorry, 0.4 amps at 5 volts, and so we're about 2 watts of power. Okay, well, that's about it. I'm going to forge ahead. Okay, nothing too high-tech about this. Oh, I skipped mixing up the epoxy. You didn't get to see that. You've seen that before. So I've just mixed up a little bit of epoxy. I probably have way too much. I'm just going to slather this on and kind of rub it in, and then we're going to let it cure. So nothing too complex here. Gets kind of messy. I mixed up way too much epoxy. So we'll rub this down. This makes the epoxy LED window there nice and clear. I don't have to polish it now because I'm doing this epoxy finish. I'll get a little bit more here on the inside. Okay, I think that'll do it. I am getting closer, so I just made this little assembly. I cut out a piece of plexiglass on the laser cutter, cut the LED strip into 3 pieces, connected them up to make sure they've got the ins to the outs. I've got a little connector here to connect to this piece here, and it's kind of all hot glued together. It's a hot glue mess. Little strain relief right there for those wires going out the brass tube. So that fits in there really nice. I just need to find something to make that look nicer up there. Turned off most of the lights in my workroom. The focus doesn't work so swell, but here you can see the independent lights on the down light versus the lights that are around. This is maximum current running white right here, and I'm 5 volts, 0.53 amps, 2.65 watts, 6 LEDs underneath, and then the whole wrap ended up looking really good. Well, it's finished, and it ended up looking pretty good. I put on a pendant light attachment here, installed some LEDs in the bottom, and those are chasing right now at the lowest intensity. This is just barely on right here. There's some really cool figure in this wood right in here. Kind of see that 3D effect there. This is using the SP105E. Try to get no reflection there to do a Bluetooth control. So I can turn up the brightness. And it'll do all sorts of crazy patterns. I'd like to make my own controller so I can just do maybe some really slow oscillating color here, but keep this maybe a white color coming out the bottom. I'll go full bright.